My wife left me for years to find herself. When my wife abandoned me, I was devastated. I kept hoping she would come back, but after a month of waiting, I decided to consult a lawyer. The lawyer told me there wasn't much to be done right now, other than changing the beneficiaries on my retirement accounts and life insurance policies. It felt strangely satisfying to know that if something happened to me, she wouldn't get anything while she was off living her new adventurous life. It had only been a month, and there was no way to serve her divorce papers yet. My lawyer advised me to keep up with the mortgage and car payments. Apparently, the cost of getting a judge to approve the sale of our joint assets would be more than just continuing to pay the bills. I couldn't let my credit get ruined by having one of our cars repossessed, but I couldn't sell it either because her name was on the title. She sends random texts now and then and sporadically posts on Instagram, always with the comments turned off. I want to block her so badly, but my lawyer suggested it's better to keep a communication channel open that doesn't involve our kids. Her last post was from Hawaii, and she even had the nerve to write in the comments about what a great husband I was for letting her take this trip. Meanwhile, I'm barely making ends meet, paying for 2 cars, a mortgage, household bills, and insurance. I have no savings left, and just hope nothing goes wrong because I can't afford any emergencies. And she's out there enjoying herself. I'm furious with her. I spent 4 years helping take care of her mom, and when her mom moved into a memory care home, I was there for my wife when she fell apart. And this is how she repays me? By abandoning me? I'll never get to take a trip like she is. I've even had to put off my retirement because of this mess. The only bit of comfort I have is that our kids are just as angry at her as I am, though I know they'll probably forgive her eventually. But I'm no fool. I know her. I know she's out there hooking up with other guys. She's attractive, and I'm sure she has no trouble finding men. I texted her, asking if she was sleeping around, and a week later she responded saying she wasn't. I just rolled my eyes at that. So here I am, drinking alone on a Friday night, while she's probably somewhere on a beach, enjoying life. And I know without a doubt that she's completely delusional if she thinks she can just come back to this marriage like nothing happened. She's had a few conversations with our daughter, and she's convinced herself that I'll understand and forgive her. It's like she only hears what she wants to hear. I asked her to send me an address so I could serve her divorce papers, but all she said was that we'll work it out when she comes home. There's no way that's happening. My daughter tries to tell her how much pain she's causing, but she just brushes it off, saying she only has 5 to 10 years left before she might develop dementia. It's impossible to know if she'll even get dementia, but if she's really worried about that, shouldn't she be spending this time with her family? Another month has gone by, and I'm starting to feel a bit more positive. The financial situation has become a little more manageable. Essentially, I'm running up debt that I plan to pay off when I sell the house. Even with lawyer fees, I've got about 6 to 8 months before I need to start worrying about money, assuming no emergencies crop up. A friend's wife gave me some really good advice. Don't go from being a hero to a villain in your kids' eyes. How I talk about and treat my wife now will determine my future relationship with my kids. I don't care about my wife anymore, but I don't want to make her into a sympathetic figure or risk driving my kids away from both of us. I followed up with my lawyer, and she explained that we'll make sure my wife pays back the savings she took by reducing her share of the assets. Any division of assets will include what she took, and she'll also have to repay the money I've spent maintaining the household while she's been gone. There's plenty of equity in her share of the house and her retirement plans to cover that. But because our finances are so intertwined after nearly 25 years of marriage, my wife is going to get some share of the assets. The best-case scenario is that she agrees to the terms of the divorce, making it relatively cheap and quick. Otherwise, it's going to get complicated and expensive. For now, I've decided to just mostly wait and see how things play out. I managed to get a couple of credit cards with promotional rates for purchases and transfers, which has really given me some breathing room. Now I can conserve cash and plan to pay off the cards once I sell the house. With the financial pressure easing up a bit, I've actually started to enjoy her being gone. For the first time in a long time, I'm free to do whatever I want whenever I want. I don't have to cook, clean, or take care of anyone. The house is quiet, something I'm not sure I've ever experienced before. I did love my wife, but her mental health took a toll on our marriage. Looking back, it was worth it for a while, but now I see things differently. The first month or so after she left, I kept expecting her to be there whenever I got home. If someone was at the door or I heard a noise, I'd think it was her. I even checked the doorbell cam obsessively, but now I'm not looking forward to her return. I know it has to happen eventually, but when it does, I'll have to deal with her, the divorce, getting the house ready to sell, dividing all our stuff, and finding a new place to live. I'm hoping she'll stay away until after New Year's, but my daughter thinks her mom will be home for Christmas, either to stay or just for a visit. My lawyer will have the papers ready to serve her, and I'm really hoping she'll just agree to the terms and continue her travels. I've received some good advice from people I've talked to. One person suggested renting or selling the house, but that's not really feasible right now. I'd have to fix a few things and get it ready to sell or rent, and since I still need a place to live, the added costs of living elsewhere and storing all our stuff wouldn't be worth it. My kids' rooms are still full of their belongings, and I'm not ready to spend the time and effort to clear them out and put everything in storage. Getting a home equity line of credit, HELOC, was another great piece of advice. I didn't realize I didn't need both of us to get a loan, so if I need more money, I can go that route. In the short term, though, the promotional rates on the credit cards were cheaper and easier than getting a HELOC. As for serving my wife divorce papers, or even going through a divorce in absentia, that's something I might have to consider eventually. But in cases like this, the lawyer fees increase exponentially, so I'm trying to avoid that if possible. I'm okay with just waiting for now, letting things play out. Someone suggested I check the phone bill to see where she's been and where she might be headed. I did look into her usage and noticed that she doesn't post on social media until after she's left a place. For example, when she posted about Hawaii, I saw that she made a call that day from Los Angeles. She also posted about a cruise. And by figuring out the dates, I think I might have been able to serve her at the port, but the cruise ended a couple of days before she posted. She even tried adding international calling to her line, but I blocked it, so she ended up removing her phone from our account altogether. She's told her family that she won't be home for Thanksgiving, but nobody told her that my daughter and I were spending Thanksgiving with them. She'll see the posts of us having a good time without her. Someone asked me if she's planning to blow through all the money and then expects me to take her back and care for her when dementia hits. Honestly, knowing her, that does seem to be her plan, but it's definitely not mine. Months later, in the middle of December, my wife texted me saying she'd be home for Christmas. I told her that our daughter and I would be at my brother's and that she obviously wasn't welcome. I left her car in the driveway with the fob hidden in the backyard, but she wasn't allowed in the house unless I was there. She didn't have keys to get in. She ended up spending Christmas with her sister. When we got back, I met with her. I decided not to be overly confrontational because I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking I cared enough to be mad. She seemed taken aback by how detached I was. I could tell it bothered her that I didn't show much emotion, not even anger. All I really wanted was for her to agree to the divorce. What I'm telling you is a summary of several different meetings, some with our daughter present and some without. My daughter doesn't want to meet with her mom alone just yet. I finally asked my wife why she left without telling anyone. She told me she didn't want to wait a year, didn't want anyone talking her out of it, and didn't want to work anymore. She wanted to leave before her mental health got worse. But I'm pretty sure the main reason was that she didn't want me to stop her from taking the money. She knew I'd take care of everything. The kids, the house, after she left. We had originally planned to go traveling in the summer of 2024 for a few reasons. Packing everything and getting the house ready to sell was going to be a lot of work. We also wanted to make sure our daughter graduated from college, got a job, and was settled before we left. Plus, we wanted to ensure we had enough money when we got back since we wouldn't have a house, cars, or jobs waiting for us, and it could take months to find work and a place to live. We didn't want to deal with any worries or a mess back home. At some point during our planning, she began questioning whether she wanted to return to our old life at all. She didn't want to work full-time, buy a house, and stay in one place after we got back. She wasn't sure what she wanted, but she didn't think she'd figure it out by talking to me. I reminded her that's why we were taking the trip, to figure those things out together and decide what we wanted for the next part of our life. I asked her why she didn't just get a divorce before she left. If that's what she wanted, she wouldn't have had to do this behind our backs, and she would have had plenty of money without stealing from our joint savings. She claimed she didn't want a divorce. Instead, she wanted us to live whatever life she eventually figured out. I told her that's not how marriages work. One person can't just decide the course for both. After talking to our daughter, her family, reading my texts and voicemails, she finally realized I might not forgive her. And she was right about that. She's starting to understand she might have to visualize a future without me. I was half expecting her to say something ridiculous, like she was planning to squander all her money living in a van while making travel vlogs, or that she'd met some guy who needed her to wire him money so they could open an ice cream shop in Alaska. But instead, she said she wants to be a digital nomad, working part-time, fully remote, and living in different places. She tried to convince me to go with her on this new adventure, but there's no way I could ever trust her again, let alone love her like I once did. Sure, traveling for a few years doesn't sound bad, but she doesn't have a job or any work lined up. She's not in her 20s anymore, and that kind of lifestyle will get old quickly. No close friends, no family. Honestly, I hope she manages to make it work so she won't come back here, trying to get back into our lives. As for the kids, Our son wouldn't have seen us much during the time she was gone anyway, so it hasn't affected him as much. He only responds to her with very short texts. He told me she wanted to see him, but he said he was too busy, especially since he's deployed. Living in the barracks gives him an easy excuse to avoid her. My daughter, on the other hand, has stopped talking and texting her altogether. She's pretty upset. Her worry turned to anger when she realized her mom wasn't having a mental breakdown but was just being selfish. If her mom had stayed around, maybe they could have worked through it eventually. But I just care that my daughter is happy, so whatever she decides, I'll support her. In total, my wife ended up spending around half of the money we'd saved up. I think she realized she needed to figure things out before she completely ran out of money. Some friends wondered if she'd slept with anyone during her time away. I didn't ask because, honestly, I didn't care. Asking would imply that I wanted her back or that it would even matter to me. Still, she claims she hadn't, though I'm not sure if she's lying. Maybe she just doesn't want the kids to have another reason to be mad at her. Another friend asked if she felt bad about what she put us through. She claims she does and wishes she had handled things differently, but she still insists that getting away and figuring herself out was what was best for her. I told her she was just being selfish. When she first left, we were all worried something would happen to her and that we'd never see her again. She's always been self-centered, taking the easy route and letting everyone else handle the tough parts. If she gets sick, the kids will take care of her. If she goes broke, she'll just live with family. She abandons everyone, and they'll forgive her. She seems to think her siblings and our children will let her live with them, just like we let her mom live with us. I'm sure when she visualizes her future, she sees our kids there, but they might not be, and certainly not in the same way they were before. Despite how it might sound, I'm actually really happy with how things have turned out. Our divorce is far from final, but we've agreed on the big things: selling the house, splitting the retirement funds, and the profit from the house, and paying back the money she took and what I spent maintaining the household. I got most of what I wanted from the settlement, and soon she'll be mostly out of my life. I won't have to pay alimony, and because she's choosing to make significantly less money than before, I won't be forced to support her. That would have been a kick in the teeth. She's no longer my responsibility, and I won't have to care for her if she gets sick or goes broke. I figured I'd start dating again. I didn't realize that being a 50-year-old man with grown kids, a good job, and in decent shape would make me a catch. I'm not fighting women off with a stick, but I've had a lot more interest than I expected. It's been nice meeting new people. I've worked out the numbers, and I'll be doing pretty well after everything is settled, and I only have to support myself. This isn't where I imagined I'd be at 50, getting divorced and writing about it as a form of therapy. But I'm happier now than I've been in a long time. I'm even planning a little vacation of my own. Just to clarify, I'm not looking for anyone under 30 or 35, and I don't want someone who has kids or wants kids. There's nothing wrong with that, but I've already raised mine. Anyway, thanks for listening.